This. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books in the live studios in ISKCON Bhaktivedanta Ashram, Govardhan, right across the street from Govardhan Hill, in the Bhajan Kutir that I've been living in for 24 years. And I was just told recently, today, by a young couple from Houston, that this was the most profound room they've ever been in.
Most profound room?
Yeah, they've ever been in. And they're not the only ones. Okay, so here we are. Welcome to all of you who are out in cyberspace and who will be reading and be listening, watching rather, later, and those who are there live. We're reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam as we do every day, my vow for the rest of my life. And before we start today, as every day, we're going to read Srila Sanatana Goswami's glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the most profound and beautiful glorification I've ever heard of Srimad-Bhagavatam.
Where is that?
It's in the, Adi Karta's asking me where it's from. It's from the Sri Krishna Leela Stava.
I got that.
You do? Well, it's verse 412, yeah. Verse 412 to 416. Sanatana Goswami wrote this book in order to offer 108 obeisances to the Srimad Bhagavatam, to Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, to Vrindavan pastimes. And this is the 107th obeisance, next to the last. And it goes like this. You ready?
I'm ready.
Adi's ready, so we can go. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarvalokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandodita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasavyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who is supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mannishtadaga Madbhagya Madananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin Atini Chochita Kada Hanamun Chagadachin Mam Prem Narit Kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, here we are in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 21st chapter, text 13. The name of this chapter is Conversation between Manu and Kardama. Now here, in this 21st verse, Kardama is going to speak to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has appeared before him because of the austerities that he just performed. 10,000 years, he and his wife. Oh no, this was before, I'm sorry, this was before he got his wife. Did I see 21? Did I say 21?
Yes.
It's verse 21. I went back to try to find out what the name of the chapter was. No, that's not right.
Different title? Different verse?
No, what verse did I... What? Sorry for the confusion here, folks. We're going to get it right now. What verse it is. 13. 21:13. Is that what you put? That's the title of the file. It's 13. It's page 13. It's verse 13. Without a doubt.
Yeah, well that's where I'm at in my database here.
Oh, good. Okay.
And the title.
Yes.
13.
Yeah, verse 13.
Yeah, that's correct.
So Kardama Muni is speaking to, or rather praying to Lord Vishnu, who has just appeared to him. The great sage Kardama said, O Supreme Worshipful Lord, my power of sight is now fulfilled, having attained the great perfection of the sight of you, who are the reservoir of all existences. Through many successive births of deep meditation, advanced yogis aspire to see your transcendental form. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described here as the reservoir of all goodness and all pleasure. Unless one is situated in the mode of goodness, there is no real pleasure. When, therefore, one's body, mind, and activities are situated in the service of the Lord, one is on the highest perfectional stage of goodness. Kardama Muni says, your Lordship is the reservoir of all that can be understood by the nomenclature of goodness, and by experiencing you face to face, eye to eye, the perfection of sight has now been attained. These statements are the pure devotional situation. For a devotee, the perfection of the senses is to engage in the service of the Lord. The sense of sight, when engaged in seeing the beauty of the Lord, is perfected. The power to hear, when engaged in hearing the glories of the Lord, is perfected. The power of taste, when one enjoys by eating prasad, is perfected. When all the senses engage in relationship with the personality of Godhead, one's perfection is technically called Bhakti Yoga, which entails detaching the senses from material indulgence and attaching them to the service of the Lord. When one is freed from all designated conditional life and fully engages in the service of the Lord, one's service is called Bhakti Yoga. Kardama Muni admits that seeing the Lord personally in Bhakti Yoga is the perfection of sight. The exalted perfection of seeing the Lord is not exaggerated by Kardama Muni. He gives evidence that those who are actually elevated in yoga aspire in life after life to see this form of the personality of Godhead. He was not a fictitious yogi. Those who are actually on the advanced path aspire only to see the eternal form of the Lord. Text 14. Your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane nations. Only persons deprived of their intelligence by the spell of the deluding energy will worship those feet with a view to attain the trivial and momentary pleasures of the senses which even persons rotting in hell can attain. However, O my Lord, you are so kind that you bestow mercy even upon them. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, there are two kinds of devotees: those who desire material pleasures and those who desire nothing but service to the Lord. Material pleasures can be attained even by hogs and dogs, whose condition of life is hellish. The hog also eats, sleeps, and enjoys sex life to the full extent, and it is also very satisfied with such a hellish enjoyment of material existence. Modern yogis advise that because one has senses, one must enjoy to the fullest extent, like cats and dogs. Yet one can go on and practice yoga. This is condemned here by Kardama Muni. He says that such material pleasures are available for cats and dogs in a hellish condition. The Lord is so kind that if so-called yogis are satisfied by hellish pleasures, He can give them facilities to attain all the material pleasures they desire, but they cannot attain the perfectional stage attained by Kardama Muni. Hellish and demoniac persons do not actually know what is the ultimate attainment in perfection, and therefore they think that sense gratification is the highest goal of life. They advise that one can satisfy the senses and at the same time, by reciting some mantra and by some practice, can cheaply aspire for perfection. Such persons are described here as hatamedasa, which means those whose brains are spoiled. They aspire for material enjoyment by perfection of yoga or meditation. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated by the Lord that the intelligence of those who worship the demigods has been spoiled. Similarly, here too it is stated by Kardama Muni that one who aspires after material enjoyment by practice of yoga has spoiled his brain substance and is fool number one. Actually, the intelligent practitioner of yoga should aspire for nothing else but to cross over the ocean of nations by worshipping the personality of Godhead and to see the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord is so kind, however, that even today, persons whose brain substance is spoiled are given the benediction to become cats, dogs, or hogs and enjoy material happiness from sex life and sense gratification. The Lord confirms this benediction in Bhagavad Gita. Whatever a person aspires to receive from me, I offer him as he desires. Could I have some water? Thank you. Text 15. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything, for you are like a desire tree. Purport. In spite of his condemning persons who approach the Lord for material advantages, Kardama Muni expressed his material inability and desire before the Lord, saying, although I know that nothing material should be asked for from you, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition. The phrase like disposition is very significant. Formerly, boys and girls of similar dispositions were married. The similar natures of the boy and girl were united in order to make them happy. Not more than 25 years ago, and perhaps it is still current, parents in India used to consult the horoscope of the boy and girl to see whether there would be factual union in their psychological conditions. These considerations are very important. Nowadays, marriage takes place without such consultation, and therefore, soon after the marriage, there is divorce and separation. Formerly, husband and wife used to live together peacefully throughout their whole lives, but nowadays, it is a very difficult task. Kardama Muni wanted to have a wife of like disposition because a wife is necessary to assist in spiritual and material advancement. It is said that a wife yields the fulfillment of all desires in religion, economic development, and sense gratification. If one has a nice wife, he is to be considered a most fortunate man. In astrology, a man is considered fortunate who has great wealth, very good sons, or a very good wife. Of these three, one who has a very good wife is considered the most fortunate. Before marrying, one should select a wife of like disposition and not be enamored with so-called beauty or other attractive features for sense gratification. In the Bhagavatam 12th canto, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, marriage will be based on the consideration of sex life. As soon as there is deficiency in sex life, the question of divorce will arise. Kardama Muni could have asked his benediction from Uma, for it is recommended in the scriptures that if anyone wants a good wife, he should worship Uma. But he preferred to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead because it is recommended in the Bhagavatam that everyone, whether he is full of desires, has no desire, or desires liberation, should worship the Supreme Lord. Of these three classes of men, one tries to be happy by fulfillment of material desires. Another wants to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme, and another, the perfect man, is a devotee. He does not want anything in return from the personality of Godhead. He only wants to render transcendental devotional loving service. In any case, everyone should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he will fulfill everyone's desire. The advantage of worshipping the Supreme Person is that even if one has desires for material enjoyment, if he worships Krishna, he will gradually become a pure devotee and have no more material hankering. Text 16. O my Lord, you are the master and leader of all living entities. Under your direction, all conditioned souls, as if bound by rope, are constantly engaged in satisfying their desires. Following them, O embodiment of religion, I also bear oblations to you, for you, who are eternal time. Purport. In the Katha Upanishad, it is stated that the Supreme Lord is the leader of all living entities. He is their sustainer and the awarder of all their necessities and desires. No living entity is independent. All are dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Vedic instruction is that one should enjoy life under the direction of the Supreme Leader, the Personality of Godhead. Vedic literatures like Ishopanishad direct that since everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not encroach upon another's property, but should enjoy one's individual allotment. The best program for every living entity is to take direction from the Supreme Lord and enjoy material or spiritual life. I just got a message from Brad Vihari. I have to answer it.
Okay.
A question may be asked. Since Kardama Muni was advanced in spiritual life, why then did he not ask the Lord for liberation? Why did he want to enjoy material life in spite of his personally seeing and experiencing the Supreme Lord? The answer is that not everyone is competent to be liberated from material bondage. It is everyone's duty, therefore, to enjoy according to his present position, but under the direction of the Lord, or the Vedas. The Vedas are considered to be the direct words of the Lord. The Lord gives us the opportunity to enjoy material life as we want, and at the same time, He gives directions for the modes and processes of abiding by the Vedas, so that gradually one may be elevated to liberation from material bondage. The conditioned souls who have come to the material world to fulfill their desires to lord it over material nature are bound by the laws of nature. The best course is to abide by the Vedic rules. That will help one to be gradually elevated to liberation. Kardama Muni addresses the Lord as Shukla, which means the leader of religion. One who is pious should follow the rules of religion, for such rules are prescribed by the Lord Himself. No one can manufacture or concoct a religion. Religion refers to the injunctions or laws of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that religion means to surrender unto Him. Therefore, one should follow the Vedic regulations and surrender under the Supreme Lord, because that is the ultimate goal of perfection in human life. One should live a life of piety, follow the religious rules and regulations, marry and live peacefully for elevation to the higher status of spiritual realization. Text 17. However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and the beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of the material body. I hope everyone heard that. Purport. After describing the necessity of married life, Kardama Muni asserts that marriage and other social affairs are stereotyped regulations for persons who are addicted to material sense enjoyment. The principles of animal life, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are actually necessities of the body. But those who engage in transcendental Krishna consciousness, giving up all the stereotyped activities of this material world, are freed from social conventions. Conditioned souls are under the spell of material energy, or eternal time, past, present, and future. But as soon as one engages in Krishna consciousness, he transcends the limits of past and present and becomes situated in the eternal activities of the soul. One has to act. Oh, we have a traveling brahmachari, mendicant, who just came in the door. His name is Acharya Nishta Prabhu. He's from Chicago and points west, or maybe east. Yeah. Come in, make yourself comfortable. This is the couch. You can sit on the couch. Make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, I got one. Where are we?
321.
Oh, great.
321:17.
Real days.
Huh? Well, it hasn't started yet. We're just, Kardama Muni is speaking to the Lord, offering his prayers. After doing 10,000 years of austerities. Lucky for us, we're in Kali Yuga, so we don't have to do 10,000 years of austerity. Okay. Anyway, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Can you repeat the text again?
321:17 purport. We're in the middle of the purport. let's go back a couple of lines to bring us into this thought. One has to act in terms of the Vedic injunctions in order to enjoy material life. But those who have taken to the devotional service of the Lord are not afraid of the regulations of this material world. Such devotees do not care for the conventions of material activities. They boldly take to that shelter, which is like an umbrella against the sun of repeated birth and death. Constant transmigration of the soul from one body to another is the cause of suffering in material existence. This conditional life in material existence is called samsara. One may perform good work and take his birth in a very nice material condition, but the process under which birth and death take place is like a terrible fire. Sri Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, in his prayer to the spiritual master, has described this. Samsara, or the repetition of birth and death, is compared to a forest fire. A forest fire takes place automatically, without anyone's endeavor, by the friction of dried wood, and no fire department or sympathetic person can extinguish it. The raging forest fire can be extinguished only when there is a constant downpour of water from a cloud. The cloud is compared to the mercy of the spiritual master. By the grace of the spiritual master, the cloud of the mercy of the personality of Godhead is brought in, and then only, when the rains of Krishna consciousness fall, can the fire of material existence be extinguished. This is also explained here. In order to find freedom from the stereotyped conditional life of material existence, one has to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, not in the manner in which the impersonalists indulge, but in devotional service, chanting and hearing of the activities of the Lord. Only then can one be freed from the actions and reactions of material existence. It is recommended here that one should give up the conditional life of this material world and the association of so-called civilized human beings who are simply following, in a polished way, the same stereotype principles of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Chanting and hearing of the glories of the Lord is described here as Twadgunavada Siddhu. Only by drinking the nectar of chanting and hearing the pastimes of the Lord can one forget the intoxication of material existence. This is a nice statement for my offering next year, which I'm going to put over here. Oops. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Just paste it right over here. This is what is it? 3:21:17. Purport. Thank you.
I'll be right back.
We'll miss you, Adi.
I'll miss you.
So I'll hold my breath. I won't be able to read, so I guess I'll just keep reading.
Go ahead. I won't be long.
Okay, I'll read that last sentence again, because it's so good. Only by drinking the nectar of chanting and hearing the pastimes of the Lord can one forget the intoxication of material existence. There it is. Every page. Text 18. Your wheel, which has 3 naves, rotates around the axis of the imperishable Brahman. It has 13 spokes, 360 joints, 6 rims and numberless leaves carved upon it. Though its revolution cuts short the lifespan of the entire creation, this wheel of tremendous velocity cannot touch the lifespan of the devotees of the Lord. Purport: the time factor cannot affect the span of life of the devotees. In Bhagavad Gita it is stated that a little execution of devotional service saves one from the greatest danger. The greatest danger is transmigration of the soul from one body to another, and only devotional service to the Lord can stop this process. It is stated in the Vedic literatures, Harim bina na mritim taranti. Without the mercy of the Lord, one cannot stop the cycle of birth and death. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that only by understanding the transcendental nature of the Lord and His activities, His appearance and disappearance, can one stop the cycle of death and go back to Him. The time factor is divided into many fractions of moments, hours, months, years, periods, seasons, etc. All the divisions of this verse are determined according to the astronomical calculations of Vedic literature. There are 6 seasons called ritus, and there is the period of 4 months called chaturmasya. 3 periods of 4 months complete 1 year. According to Vedic astronomical calculations, there are 13 months. The 13th month is called Adimas or Malamasa and is added every 3rd year. The time factor, however, cannot touch the lifespan of the devotees. In another verse, it is stated that when the sun rises and sets, it takes away the life of all living entities, but it cannot take away the life of those who are engaged in devotional service. Time is compared here to a big wheel which has 360 joints, 6 rims in the shape of seasons, and numberless leaves in the shape of moments. It rotates on the eternal existence, Brahman. Text 19. My dear Lord, you alone create the universes. O Personality of Godhead, desiring to create these universes, you create them, maintain them, and again wind them up by your own energies, which are all under the control of your second energy, called Yogamaya. Just as a spider creates a cobweb by its own energy, and again winds it up. Purport. In this verse, 2 important words nullify the impersonalist theory that everything is God. Here Kardama says, O Personality of Godhead, you are alone, but you have various energies. The example of the spider is very significant also. The spider is an individual living entity, and by its energy, it creates a cobweb and plays on it. And whenever it likes, it winds up the cobweb, thus ending the play. When the cobweb is manufactured by the saliva of the spider does not become impersonal. Similarly, the creation and manifestation of the material or spiritual energy does not render the Creator impersonal. Here the very prayer suggests that God is sentient and can hear the prayers and fulfill the desires of the devotee. Therefore he is Satchidananda Vigraha, the form of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. Text 20. My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, you manifest this creation of gross and subtle elements just for our sensual satisfaction. Let your causeless mercy be upon us, for you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adorned with a splendid wreath of tulsi leaves. Tulsi leaves. Purport. It is clearly stated here that the material world is not created by the personal will of the Supreme Lord. It is created by his external energy, because the living entities want to enjoy it. This material world is not created for those who do not want to enjoy sense gratification, who constantly remain in transcendental loving service, and who are eternally Krishna conscious. For them, the spiritual world is eternally existing, and they enjoy there. Elsewhere in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, it is stated that for those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this material world is useless. Because this material world is full of danger at every step, it is not meant for the devotees, but for living entities who want to lord it over the material energy at their own risk. Krishna is so kind that he allows the sense-enjoying living entities a separate world created by him to enjoy as they like. Yet at the same time, he appears in his personal form. The Lord unwillingly creates this material world, but he descends in his personal form, or sends one of his reliable sons, or a servant, or a reliable author, like Vyasadeva, to give instruction. He himself also instructs in his speeches of Bhagavad Gita. This propaganda work goes on side by side with the creation to convince the misguided living entities who are rotting in this material world to come back to him and surrender unto him. Therefore, the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita is this: give up all your manufactured engagements in the material world and just surrender unto me. I shall protect you from all sinful reactions. Text 21. I continuously offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet, of which it is worthy to take shelter, because you shower all benedictions on the insignificant. To give all living entities detachment from fruitive activity by realizing you, you have expanded these material worlds by your own energy. Purport. Everyone, therefore, whether he desires material enjoyment, liberation, or the transcendental loving service of the Lord, should engage himself offering obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, because the Lord can award everyone his desired benediction. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord affirms, Yayatam mam prapadyante. Anyone who desires to be a successful enjoyer in this material world is awarded that benediction by the Lord. Anyone who wants to be liberated from the entanglement of this material world is given liberation by the Lord. And anyone who desires to constantly engage in his service in full Krishna consciousness is awarded that benediction by the Lord. For material enjoyment, he has prescribed so many ritualistic sacrificial performances in the Vedas, and thus people may take advantage of those instructions and enjoy material life in higher planets or in a noble aristocratic family. These processes are mentioned in the Vedas, and one can take advantage of them. It is similar with those who want to be liberated from this material world. Unless one is disgusted with the enjoyment of this material world, he cannot aspire for liberation. Liberation is for one who is disgusted with material enjoyment. Vedanta Sutra says, therefore, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Those who have given up the attempt to be happy in this material world can inquire about the absolute truth. For those who want to know the absolute truth, the Vedanta Sutra is available, as is Srimad-Bhagavatam, the actual explanation of Vedanta Sutra. Since Bhagavad Gita is also Vedanta Sutra, by understanding Srimad-Bhagavatam, Vedanta Sutra, or Bhagavad Gita, one can obtain real knowledge. When one obtains real knowledge, he becomes theoretically one with the Supreme. And when he actually begins the service of Brahman, or Krishna consciousness, he is not only liberated, but situated in his spiritual life. Similarly, For those who want to lord it over material nature, there are so many departments of material enjoyment. Material knowledge and material science are available, and the Lord provides for persons who want to enjoy them. The conclusion is that one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for any benediction. The word kama varsham, is very significant, for it indicates that he satisfies the desires of anyone who approaches him. But one who sincerely loves Krishna and yet wants material enjoyment is in perplexity. Krishna being very kind toward him, gives him an opportunity to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and so he gradually forgets the hallucination. Text 22. Maitreya resumed. Sincerely extolled in these words, Lord Vishnu, shining very beautifully on the shoulders of Garuda, replied with words as sweet as nectar. His eyebrows moved gracefully as he looked at the sage with a smile full of affection. Purport. The word vachasamritena is significant. Whenever the Lord speaks, he speaks from the transcendental world. He does not speak from the material world. Since he is transcendental, his speech is also transcendental, as is his activity. Everything in relation to him is transcendental. The word amrita refers to one who does not meet with death. The words and activities of the Lord are deathless. Therefore, they are not manufactured of this material world. The sound of this material world and that of the spiritual world are completely different. The sound of the spiritual world is nectarian and eternal, whereas the sound of the material world is hackneyed and subject to end. The sound of the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, everlastingly increases the enthusiasm of the chanter. If one repeats monotonous material words, he will feel exhausted. But if he chants Hare Krishna 24 hours a day, he will never feel exhausted. Rather, he will feel encouraged to continue chanting more and more. When the Lord replied to the sage Kardama, the word vachasamritena is specifically mentioned, since he spoke from the transcendental world. He replied in transcendental words, and when he spoke, his eyebrows moved with great affection. When a devotee praises the glories of the Lord is very satisfied, and he bestows his transcendental benediction upon the devotee without reservation, because he is always causelessly merciful toward his devotee. Text 23. The Supreme Lord said, having come to know what was in your mind, I have already arranged for that which you have worshipped me well through your mental and sensory discipline. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his Paramatma feature, is situated in everyone's heart. He knows, therefore, the past, present, and future of every individual person, as well as his desires, activities, and everything about him. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that he is seated in the heart as a witness. The Personality of Godhead knew the heart's desire of Kardama Muni, and he had already arranged for the fulfillment of his desires. He never disappoints a sincere devotee, regardless of what he wants, but he never allows anything which will be detrimental to the individual's devotional service. How kind is that? Text 24. The Lord continued, "My dear Rishi, O leader of the living entities, for those who serve me in devotion by worshipping me, especially persons like you, who have given up everything unto me, there is never any question of frustration." Purport. Even if he has some desires, one engaged in the service of the Lord is never frustrated. Those engaged in his service are called sakama and akama. Those who approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead with desires for material enjoyment are called sakama, and those devotees who have no material desires for sense gratification but serve the Supreme Lord out of spontaneous love for him are called akama. Sakama devotees are divided into 4 classes: those in distress, those in need of money, the inquisitive, and the wise. Someone worships the Supreme Lord because of bodily or mental distress. Someone else worships the Supreme Lord because he is in need of money. Someone else worships the Lord out of inquisitiveness to know him as he is, and someone wants to know the Lord as a philosopher can know him, by the research work of his wisdom. There is no frustration for any of these 4 classes of men. Each is endowed with the desired result of his worship. Text 25. The Emperor, Swayambhuva Manu, the son of Lord Brahma, who was well known for his righteous acts, has his seat in Brahmavarta and rules over the earth with its 7 oceans. Purport. Sometimes it is stated in that Brahmavarta is a part of Kurukshetra, or that Kurukshetra itself is situated in Brahmavarta, because the demigods are recommended to perform spiritual ritualistic performances in Kurukshetra. But in others' opinion, Brahmavarta is a place in Brahmaloka where Swayambhuva ruled. There are many places on the surface of this earth which are also known in the higher planetary systems. We have places on this planet like Vrindavan, Dwarka, and Mathura, but they are also eternally situated in Krishna Loka. There are many similar names on the surface of the earth, and it may be that in the Boar age, Swayambhuva Manu ruled this planet, as stated here. The word Mangala is significant. Mangala means one who is elevated in every respect in the opulences of religious performances, ruling power, cleanliness, and all other good qualities. Bhikyata means celebrated. Swayambhuva Manu was celebrated for all good qualities and opulences. Text 26. The day after tomorrow, O Brahmana, that celebrated emperor, who is expert in religious activities, will come here with his queen, Shatarupa, wishing to see you. Text 27. He has a grown-up daughter whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage, and she has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you, who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughter as your wife. Purport. The selection of a good husband for a good girl was always entrusted to the parents. Here it is clearly stated that Manu and his wife were coming to see Kardama Muni to offer their daughter because the daughter was well qualified and the parents were searching out a similarly qualified man. This is the duty of parents. Girls are never thrown into the public street to search out their husband, for when girls are grown up and are searching after a boy, they forget to consider whether the boy they select is actually suitable for them. Out of the urge for sex desire, the girl may accept anyone, but if the husband is chosen by the parents, they can consider who is to be selected and who is not. According to the Vedic system, therefore, the girl is given over to a suitable boy by the parents. She is never allowed to select her own husband independently. Text 28. That princess, O holy sage, will be just the type you have been thinking of in your heart for all these long years. She will soon be yours and will serve you to your heart's content. Purport. The Lord awards all benedictions according to the heart's desire of a devotee. So the Lord informed Kardama Muni, the girl who is coming to be married with you is a princess, the daughter of Emperor Swayambhuva, and so just suitable for your purpose. Only by God's grace can one get a nice wife just as he desires. Similarly, it is only by God's grace that a girl gets a husband suitable to her heart. Thus it is said that if we pray to the Supreme Lord in every transaction of our material existence, everything will be done very nicely and just suitable to our heart's desire. In other words, in all circumstances, we must take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and depend completely on His decision. Man proposes and God disposes. The fulfillment of desires, therefore, should be entrusted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the nicest solution. Kardama Muni desired only a wife, but because he was a devotee of the Lord selected a wife for him who was the emperor's daughter, a princess. Thus Kardama Muni got a wife beyond his expectation. If we depend on the choice of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will receive benedictions in greater opulence than we desire. It is also significantly noted here that Kardama Muni was a Brahmana, whereas Emperor Swayambhuva was a Kshatriya. Therefore, intercaste marriage was current even in those days. The system was that a Brahmana could marry the daughter of a Kshatriya, but a Kshatriya could not marry the daughter of a Brahmana. We have evidences from the history of the Vedic age that Shukracharya offered his daughter to Maharaj Yayati, but the king had to refuse to marry the daughter of a Brahmana. Only with the special permission of the Brahmana could they marry. Intercaste marriage, therefore, was not prohibited in the olden days, many millions of years ago, but there was a regular system of social behavior. Text 29. She will bring forth 9 daughters from the seeds sown in her by you, and through the daughters you beget, the sages will duly beget children. Text 30. With your heart cleansed by properly carrying out my command, resigning to me the fruits of all your acts, you will finally attain to me. Purport. Here the words Tirti Krita Shesha Kriyartaha are significant. Tirtha means a sanctified place where charity is given. People used to go to the places of pilgrimage and give munificently in charity. This system is still current. Therefore the Lord said, in order to sanctify your activities and the results of your actions, you will offer everything unto me. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice, the result should be given to me only. In another place in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord said, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices, all penances, and everything done for the welfare of mankind or society. All activities, therefore, whether for the family, whether for the welfare of family, society, country, or humanity at large, must be performed in Krishna consciousness. That is the instruction given by the Lord to Kardama Muni. Maharaj Yudhishthir welcomed Narada Muni. Wherever you are present, that place becomes sanctified because the Lord Himself is always seated in your heart. Similarly, if we act in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the Lord and His representative, then everything is sanctified. This is the indication given to Kardama Muni, who acted on it and therefore received the most excellent wife and child, as will be disclosed in later verses. Text 31. Showing compassion to all living entities, you will attain self-realization. Giving assurance of safety to all, you will perceive your own self as well as all the universes in me and myself in you. Purport. The simple process of self-realization for every living entity is described here. The first principle to be understood is that this world is a product of the Supreme Will. There is an identity of this world with the Supreme Lord. This identity is accepted in a misconceived way by the impersonalists. They say that the Supreme Absolute Truth, transforming Himself into the universe, loses His separate existence. Thus they accept the world and everything in it to be the Lord. That is pantheism, wherein everything is considered to be the Lord. This is the view of the impersonalist. But those who are personal devotees of the Lord take everything to be the property of the Supreme Lord. Everything, whatever we see, is the manifestation of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. This is oneness. The difference between the impersonalist and the personalist is that the impersonalist does not accept the separate existence of the Lord, but the personalist accepts the Lord. He understands that although he distributes himself in so many ways, he has his separate personal existence. This is described in Bhagavad Gita. I am spread all over the universe in my impersonal form. Everything is resting on me, but I am not present. There is a nice example regarding the sun and the sunshine. The sun, by its sunshine, is spread all over the universe, and all the planets rest on the sunshine. But all the planets are different from the sun planet. But all the planets are different from the sun planet. One cannot say that because the planets are resting on the sunshine, these planets are also the sun. Similarly, the impersonal or pantheistic view that everything is God is not a very intelligent proposal. The real position, as explained by the Lord Himself, is that although nothing can exist without Him, it is not a fact that everything is Him. He is different from everything. So here also the Lord says, you will see everything in the world to be non-different from me. This means that everything should be considered a product of the Lord's energy, and therefore everything should be employed in the service of the Lord. One's energy should be utilized for one's self-interest. That is the perfection of the energy. This energy can be utilized for real self-interest if one is compassionate. I'll read that again. This energy can be utilized for real self-interest if one is compassionate. A person in Krishna consciousness, a devotee of the Lord, is always compassionate. He is not satisfied that only he himself is a devotee, but he tries to distribute the knowledge of devotional service to everyone. There are many devotees of the Lord who faced many risks in distributing the devotional service of the Lord to people in general. That should be done. It is also said that a person who goes to the temple of the Lord and worships with great devotion, but who does not show sympathy to people in general or show respect to other devotees, is considered to be a third-class devotee. The second-class devotee is he who is merciful and compassionate to the fallen soul. The second-class devotee is always cognizant of his position as an eternal servant of the Lord. He therefore makes friendships with devotees of the Lord, act compassionately toward the general public in teaching them devotional service, and refuses to cooperate or associate with non-devotees. As long as one is not compassionate to people in general in his devotional service to the Lord, he is a third-class devotee. The first-class devotee gives assurance to every living being that there is no fear of this material existence. Let us live in Krishna consciousness and conquer the nations of material existence. It is indicated here that Kardama Muni was directed by the Lord to be very compassionate and liberal in his household life, and to give assurance to the people in his renounced life. A sannyasi, one who is in the renounced order of life, is meant to give enlightenment to the people. He should travel, going from home to enlighten the householder by the spell of Maya, becomes absorbed in family affairs, and forgets his relationship with Krishna. If he dies in forgetfulness, like the cats and dogs, then his life is spoiled. It is the duty of a sannyasi, therefore, to go and awaken the forgetful souls with enlightenment of their eternal relationship with the Lord, and to engage them in devotional service. The devotee should show mercy to the fallen souls and also give them the assurance of fearlessness. As soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he is convinced that he is protected by the Lord. Fear itself is afraid of the Lord. Therefore, what is he to do with fearfulness? To award fearlessness to the common man is the greatest act of charity. I shall repeat that, please. To award fearlessness to the common man is the greatest act of charity. A sannyasi, or one who is in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi, or one who is in the renounced order of life, should wander from door to door, village to village, from town to town, and from country to country, all over the world, as far as he is able to travel, and enlighten the householders about Krishna consciousness. A person who is a householder but is initiated by a sannyasi has the duty to spread Krishna consciousness at home. As far as possible, he should call his friends and neighbors to his house and hold classes in Krishna consciousness. Holding a class means chanting the holy name of Krishna and speaking from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad-Bhagavatam. There are immense literatures for spreading Krishna consciousness, and it is the duty of each and every householder to learn about Krishna from his sannyasi spiritual master. There is a division of labor in the Lord's service. The householder's duty is to earn money, because a sannyasi is not supposed to earn money, but is completely dependent on the householder. The householder should earn money by business or by profession and spend at least 50% of his income to spread Krishna consciousness. 25% he can spend for his family, and 25% he should save to meet emergencies. This example was shown by Rupa Goswami, so devotees should follow it. Actually, to be one with the Supreme Lord means to be one with the interest of the Lord. Becoming one with the Supreme Lord does not imply becoming as great as the Supreme Lord. It is impossible. The part is never equal to the whole. The living entity is always a minute part. Therefore, his oneness with the Lord is that he is interested in the one interest of the Lord. I read that again. Therefore, his oneness with the Lord is that he is interested in the one interest of the Lord. The Lord wants every living entity to always think about him, to be his devotee, and always worship him. This is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhavavan bhakta. Krishna wants everyone always to think of him. Everyone should always offer obeisances to Krishna. This is the will of the Supreme Lord, and devotees should try to fulfill his desire. Since the Lord is unlimited, his desire is also unlimited. There is no stoppage, and therefore the service of the Lord is also unlimited.
Service of the devotee.
There is no stoppage, and therefore the service of the devotee is also unlimited. In the transcendental world, there is unlimited competition between the Lord and the servitor. The Lord wants to fulfill his desires unlimitedly, and the devotee also serves him to fulfill his unlimited desires. There is an unlimited oneness of interest between the Lord and his devotee. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here and ask for reflections. Any point that was in the reading that stuck out in one's mind, please be kind to us. Let us know what you're thinking.
We have a reflection online.
Huh?
We have someone online.
Someone online. Well, please. Huh?
Gopi Chandra.
Gopi Chandra. Okay, good. Hare Krishna, Gopi Chandra.
So Gopi Chandra says, Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, would you please explain to me the following thought? When the sun rises and sets, it takes away the life of all living entities, but it cannot take away the life of those who are engaged in devotional service. I'd also like to ask what it means for pure devotees to have their bodies spiritualized while still within the material world, because they are also bound to quit their bodies. Thank you in advance. Sorry if this has already been discussed.
So repeat the question one at a time.
Let's see here. She asked if you would explain the following thought. When the sun rises and sets, it takes away the life of all living entities, but it cannot take away the life of those who are engaged in devotional service. So that was the first question.
Okay. Those who have material vision can't understand this subject or this statement, because they see that the devotee also has to go through the changes of material existence. They have to eat, they have to sleep, they have to go through the various processes of maintenance of the body. And at the end, the body gradually dwindles and dies. So therefore, to a materialist, this doesn't make any sense. But the devotee of the Lord, because he's fixed in thought of the Lord and in devotional service, when it comes time to die or change the body, rather than changing the body, the devotee is transferred immediately back to the spiritual world and regains his spiritual form. Regains means he loses the material form and goes back to Godhead in his original spiritual form. So he does not die.
His original spiritual form means what? Exactly.
Well, that depends on the soul, doesn't it? Depends on the person.
Yeah, he might have
Doesn't
a
it?
different form than what he started out with, mightn't he?
No. Adi Karta is bringing up the point, which form we're talking about. We're talking about the original or form of the soul. The soul has
Huh?
The constitutional nature.
the soul has a form that is constitutional and is eternal, and that identity is covered or clouded by the material energy. So when the soul goes back to the spiritual world, he regains his original spiritual identity. It's like Prabhupada describes that it's like waking up from a dream. Actually, the soul never dies, and the soul never changes, and the soul is never actually affected by the material nature. But the material nature gives him the impression, due to the contact of false ego and the subtle material body, that he is affected, and therefore he thinks he's affected. And in effect, it means he is affected, because it's not unreal. It's not unreal. The suffering is not unreal. It's real, but ultimately, the soul doesn't suffer.
So if somebody was a tree in Vaikuntha, on one of the Narayan planets, that's what he is forever.
Yes.
I don't believe that.
It's not a matter of belief. It's not a belief. But you're thinking that there's something wrong with being a tree, and that being something else will be better. But in the spiritual world, there's no higher and lower. There's no higher and lower in the spiritual world, Adi. But the fact is, in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, there are devotees that have other relationships with other than in Goloka Vrindavan. It's not that everyone in Lord Chaitanya's movement went back to Goloka Vrindavan and became a gopi or something like that,
No,
or a cowherd boy.
They didn't want to. Some of them went to be with Lord Ram.
Yes.
But
There were devotees of Lord Nishingadev. That's the point. That's the point.
But I thought our acharyas mentioned that perfect, more perfect, most perfect. It's all equal, yet.
We have a comment over here by Acharya Nishta. Go ahead.
Our acharyas also mentioned within that equality of spiritual existence, there is also a gradation of perfect, more perfect, and most perfect.
That's from our position. That's from the position of the material world. But within the spiritual world, the cowherd boys are not thinking. The gopis are, more perfect. So I wish I could become a gopi.
Ontologically, Krishna embodies a higher degree of sweetness that the soul can reciprocate with than other expansions of himself. Is it?
There's a material concept. That's a material concept. The soul, in the soul.
Say that we
This
should
is
try to follow the footsteps.
Could you let? He said something.
Okay.
He said something.
All right.
We have to discuss what he said first.
All right.
We're talking about angles of vision.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about from the material world. We're analyzing some ontologically, but I'm talking from the spiritual from the spiritual world. It's not that there are higher and lower. I'm talking now what Srila Prabhupada said. This is not what I said or what somebody else has said.
Mahaprabhu had some interesting dialogue with Venkatabhatta, Brahmin from South India. You're worshipping Narayan. That's great, but why is it that Lakshmi couldn't enter the Rasa Leela?
This is joking. This is joking between elevated souls, but it's not that that's meant to cast an aspersion or a relative conception on spiritual relationships. It's a joking argument. It doesn't mean that the person who's a devotee of Lakshmi gives up their service to Lakshmi and comes over and becomes a devotee of... No, it's not like that. It's a joking relationship.
But can I say something?
Yes, please. Adikarta has something to say.
Lord Chaitanya, I mean, in the conversation between Ramananda Roy and, Lord Chaitanya, they talk about the highest position or the highest relationship with Krishna. And I had understood that in this day and age, Lord Chaitanya gave everyone the opportunity to engage in Krishna's pastimes. Not necessarily as a gopi, I'm not saying that, but in Krishna's pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan. But he did mention that over and over again. And Prabhupada said that he came to teach us how to dance with Krishna in the rasa dance. That's what Prabhupada said. I heard the tape.
Okay, so let us take this as a fact for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
So what if everybody took him up on it?
What's wrong with that?
So now you visualize the spiritual world with just Krishna and gopis. There's no trees, there's no cows, there's no cowherd boys, there's no parents, there's no bodies of water, there's just gopis and Krishna.
But not everybody's going to be following Lord Chaitanya. There's plenty of other people who aren't followed. Like there's lots of people who are in different sampradayas who worship Krishna as a baby, who want to be cowherd boys. Or I'm not saying I want to be a gopi. Prabhupada said it's an offense to think you're a gopi. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's what Prabhupada said.
No.
And all the books by the acharyas, they don't really emphasize Krishna's relationship with the gopas. Okay, Mother Yashoda, but practically all of the books about Krishna's relationship with the gopas, it's emphasized to the nth degree. True or false?
No, it's true that Lord Chaitanya came for the purpose to relish the mood of Srimati Radharani and to find out about the mood of Srimati Radharani.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a fact in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the 4th chapter, 2nd chapter, 3rd chapter, 4th chapter, that he says he will come and he will deliver spontaneous love in the 4 relationships. So it's not that one thing is true and the other thing is not true. It's not that you're trying to... In the Chaitanya Charitamrita,
I'd like to see that.
I'll show it to you later.
I'm not disbelieving.
I'll show it
I'd
you later.
Okay.
I'll show it to you later. But I can't have this conversation,
It's okay.
and at the same time go into a research mode. Take my word for it. It does say that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Mm.
So, see, the Madhurya Ras is the Adi Ras, and it contains all the other rasas, but the basic principle is dasya, is service.
Of course.
Even the gopis consider themselves to be servants, maid servants of Krishna.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mother Yashoda considers herself to be a servant of Krishna. So everybody in the spiritual world considers themselves to be a servant of Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that because those who are in Madhurya Rasa emphasize it, as you already said, that means that everybody's going to be a gopi.
No,
So
I'm not saying everyone will be a gopi.
yeah,
But
so
that opportunity may be there for people who've never been gopis before.
it's speculation. You show me.
I'm
It's a speculation. There is the only verse that comes out that may be true
right.
is in during the Mahaprakash pastime of Lord Chaitanya, where Lord Chaitanya gives darshan, that gives darshan to each one of his devotees. He's sitting on Sriva's throne and giving the darshan of each devotee, and he shows the form of the relationship that they want to see him in. And at the end of that, he says, I will be your Nishinga, I will be your Rama, I will be your Varaha, I'll be whoever you want me to be, but now I'm here, and I want you to help me spread this Krishna consciousness that he came to give.
Sorry. Okay, I'm listening.
So therefore, the question is whether or not the eternal soul, eternal relationship of the soul to Krishna changes or can change.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm asking. I don't really know. But it seems.
But you're saying that you don't really know, but you're saying it very forcefully, like it's like you're making an argument for it. But
because it's hard to believe.
No, we're not talking about what's hard to believe or not.
Well,
Something that's
logically.
No, we don't. We may think logically, but we don't want to also make things up.
No, but when you think about all the different aspects of Lord Chaitanya's teachings, like he mentioned Vyankatapatra and Prabodhananda Saraswati. Okay, Prabodhananda Saraswati wrote a book, the Chaitanya. What's that book called? It's a famous book. It's all verses glorifying Lord Chaitanya. In that book, he practically derides the different forms of the Lord. Like, who cares for Lord Ram? Who cares for Lord Narayan? Who cares for these other incarnations? Because, Lord Chaitanya is the best incarnation.
That's because he's a pure devotee of Lord Chaitanya.
Well, he's also,
that's because he's a
teacher. He's a great acharya. He's one of the,
That's all right. That's all right. But he's not in our line exactly either. No, he's not exactly in our line because
he was one of the yogas.
He is.
Right.
He
so
is.
He must be in our line.
No, he's in our line, but not exactly because. How do I say this? He's not deriding other forms of a Lord. To think that he's deriding other forms of a Lord is just not true. He's expressing his unbridled love for Lord Chaitanya. But Rupa Goswami doesn't speak like that. He has an individual taste, an individual relationship, an individual way of expressing it. But that doesn't mean that doesn't make it an absolute way of expressing our love for Lord Chaitanya. Each one of us is an individual soul, So the point I'm trying to make is that in a general sense, Srila Prabhupada said over and over again that there is actually no higher and lower. Ontologically, we may analyze it, from this position and see what is higher or what's more pleasing to Krishna. But the devotees are in the positions in the spiritual world, whether it be in Vaikuntha or whether it be in Goloka Vrindavan, when they're in that relationship, in that position, they're not thinking that someone's higher and someone's lower.
But that's not what I'm saying.
It's turning into polemic. I'm not comfortable at all.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable at all. We've got people waiting and hearing, and this is not comfortable.
All right.
It's not that we should argue back and forth like this on an ontological point that's,
That's just a discussion.
Yeah, not comfortable.
Anyway, we can stop.
Can't we agree on one thing?
Sure.
That the soul has an eternal relationship with Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sabaka Binoy. That's the verse. And when Sanatana Goswami came to Lord Chaitanya and asked who he was, he said, "You're an eternal servant of Krishna." So everyone is an eternal servant of Krishna. And I think that for me, as an individual soul, to argue what is better and what is worse from my position here in this material world, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like it's going to cause in devotees' minds polemics.
But I'm not saying that.
But I'm just saying, for the spiritual atmosphere and the spiritual oneness of. I remember what was it? Gopi came. He said he described the variety in oneness. He said, we want to merge into the eternal spiritual variegatedness of the spiritual world. So that spiritual variegatedness is there, and it's not that there's going to be one relationship, it's going to be a variety relationship, and the individual soul's desires determine the individual relationships, and Krishna is equally satisfied with all of them.
Of course.
That's the bottom line. That's the Siddhanta.
But if I could say one thing, I'm not getting into an argument, but I think it's interesting that there's a place in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where Prabhupada talks about, there's a verse, you know the verse, where Lord Shiva says that one who worships my devotee is higher than one who worships me. Tasmat Varataram Devi. Okay, then in the parable, Prabhupada says that one who worships a devotee in, one who worships a devotee who's in Madhurya Ras. No, he says that, there are different rasas. It's okay. And that if you fail to worship a devotee in the Madhurya Rasa, or you think he's in a lower rasa, and you don't worship him in the highest rasa, that's considered an offense. So there are different gradations, but they're all perfect. We know that.
That's the conclusion. They're all perfect.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to end now. It's getting later, and it's time to take rest over here. And thank you so much, all of you, for attending this daily reading of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and for the reflections and the varieties of spiritual existence that we can all taste. If it was all the same in the spiritual world, what a boring place that would be. So there's room for different relationships and room for expressions of our relationships in ontological discussions. But at the end of the day, Krishna loves us all. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.